Hello, hello, hello. Happy Thursday, everyone. How is everyone doing this fine Thursday morning? Hey, George, where you been, George? Welcome back. Hope you're doing well. Yes, we talked about the 10 Tuesday lot. Hey, Sterling, thanks for the news. So, let's see. Good morning, Royal Palms. When we dug our own grave with the Cybertruck. Yeah, Elon it tanked after he got on the conference call. Bit more honesty than normal, so we'll have to see what the investigations going on. What's if there's heat on him, and he had to tone down his conference call stuff. Good morning, Jacob. We had all the jobless claims this morning. Good morning, Anissa. We had AT&T. We had AAL report. We had Taiwan Semiconductor, which is up on a beat, but it was a beat miss. A beat miss. Hey, Options 22. I haven't seen you this week, have I? Options 22. Yo, yo. Hey, Amit, how are you doing? Boy, a lot of the regular crew who I haven't seen in a bit is back. I'd say the boys are back in town, but we have women here too, so the people are back in town. The Tesla call was gloomy. You have to admit Elon was being as transparent as possible versus pumping it or hiding the reality. Yes, that was definitely a different tone. But then you still have these insane price targets on it. So we shall see. Yeah, where's it trading now? Let's see. It's trading well, it was trading yesterday 242. Now it's below that with the pre-market gap, but this is why this is a joke with these analysts. Warsaw and Uganda. Well, that's why. That's why. Hey, options 22, if you didn't watch the replays though, I've been putting up the spiders and the Qs. Look at this on the list. There they are. They've officially been added to the list. Just watching the replays. Well, thank you for watching the replays. Trump leads Biden swing state polls. All righty. So, what do we have? We had initial jobless claims back below 200. Initial jobless claims back below 200. Continuing jobless claims popping. Actually, that was a miss. So, continuing was a miss. Initial was a beat. UAV deal. Okay. Well, you always cover them anyways, but I felt guilty, and then I was called out on it for not adding them to the list, so they had to be added. Hey, Christoph, how you doing? Thank you again. Thank you everybody for tuning in. All right, we had Philly minor regional index, but that missed. It missed on the where is it? Where's the headline, Philly? There it is. Manufacturing 6 to 7, act coming in at 9. So business conditions dropping, employment actually a little stronger, prices paid coming in a bit. We have Jefferson's speech, but as Sterling put in the news, it is not relating to anything about what was the exact words. Sterling had this up here. Boy, now I got to go find it. But I saw that right as I was launching this. Does not comment on monetary policy or economic outlook. Thank you, Sterling. What else do we have? At 30 minutes after the open, 9 a.m. Central, we have existing home sales. We have the Consumer Board leading index, which still is expected to be in contraction. This has been in contraction for a very long time. The big thing will be Powell speaking at 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern. Do not get caught off guard by that one. That could be definitely market moving. Then we have Goolsby, Barr, Bostic, Harker, and Logan. So, lots of that. And then tomorrow we still have Harker and Mester. And tomorrow's very quiet besides any potential earnings. So far this morning, we have Tesla down 6%, but other things are trying to bounce, and the chips are trying to bounce with, I didn't think the Taiwan Semiconductor's earnings were that good, but the chips are looking to bounce. They've been under a little heat. Oil pulling back a bit. You see here, comm services, and technology, I think, are up in sympathy a lot with NFLX Beat, because even technology with yields, the 10-year yields actually popped quite a bit this morning. Fed watch still is in pause for the meeting in a couple weeks. Just under 2 weeks, 13 days, 4 hours. So that's where we sit, and only 37% for a December hike. I'm already jumping to February. Still in fear mode. So that's where that sits. In terms of earnings, we already talked about that. The big ones yesterday were Tesla and Netflix, AT&T, American Airlines, and TSMC this morning. After the close, CSX, but not a lot of stuff after the close today. And tomorrow morning is really American Express and how they're looking with charge-offs and everything. So sort of a quieter week now. So everything's going to be today with the Powell and other Fed speak. You see here on the S&Ps, that confirmed but did not trigger on a daily. It confirmed but did not. I was watching, and it did not officially trigger on the daily. It did on the 4 hour. We're going to pay attention to this bounce back pattern now because it has triggered on the 4, but I wanted it to really trigger. There's a probability shift up if it triggers on the daily. Today, I'll clean up this chart in a little, but anything between about 43.60 to 43.65, I'm watching for a potential rollover. If it gets through that, 43.75 and then to 43.89 is the next key area, with 43.89.25 technically on the closing basis. That does not invalidate the double. That's though we're then off the most recent. We could see continued push higher. The invalidation on the double is still 43.96 technically, but we could see some volatility, especially with Powell speaking. This is on the 4 hour with cycles at the bottom. On the daily, cycles are still heading down, and on the weekly, they're turning up. So we're still in mixed mode here, and things are flattening out. I'm watching to see if this is one of the doubles that turns into the channeling flag pattern. That's what I'm going to be keeping an eye on if we get the stronger bounce. So, to the downside, 43.20 area, which was already tested this morning on the European Open times. Then if we break below that, if we break below the European Opens, 4,300, 42.99.50, 4,300, 42.79, 42.58 to 42.60. On a closing basis for the daily close, if we do roll over, pay attention to 43.08.75. The NASDAQ coming on down. Remember, there was no double here. We reversed off the harmonic area. I was keeping an eye on and watching for a bounce now in the NASDAQ. So what are we looking at? Let me just clean up this chart a bit. Into the open, I'm watching roughly about 15,140, 15,150. We get above there, 15,200, 15,203. And then really key areas about 15,269.25 on a closing basis. To see if it can then propel back to higher prices. Right now, support coming in about 15,050. Then we're looking at about 15,000. And then below 43.97. Right now, if this does come back down, we probably have a pausing bar here. Probably, unless it really rolls over into the open. But that gives the key cluster. Remember, between the 50 and the 62.5. Now, these are the retracements. The retracements from the lows September 27th to the highs on October 12th. It pulled back into the 50 to 62% harmonic and is now rotating up. So if it starts breaking below this, watch 14,917 on a closing basis. Then the next major target would be 14,803 to 14,806. The Dow pretty much finished the double from yesterday. It actually had to trigger on the 1 hour, and you see the retest, some volatility, but then the roll down into 4 hour, you just had to go with the trend, and then virtually coming down within a couple cents of the final target. So I'm just going to pull that off. The Dow, which is a mess right now too. Let's just take a look because that was a strong pattern. The key area of resistance I'm watching is about 33,950. And then, let's see where this is with the harmonics. Then 33, we're roughly 34K, and then on a closing basis, 34,070. On a rollover play, you see it came down to pretty key support. Below that, if we start breaking below that, we're looking at roughly about 35,445, then 33,113. Russell turned into a clear triple without ever triggering. And you see how well the rotation zone is held. Now, this is probably looks like it's flattening out. I mean, if Powell comes across anywhere dovish, you can see a pretty strong snapback in some of these markets. So we're definitely going to be aware of that. The Russell, though, about 1743, then 17, I'm using the harmonics, 1753.7, 1763.5, on a closing basis, 1773.3. If we break down, there's some major support about the 1730. If we start breaking below that, Friday the 13th lows, and then if that's broken, 1710 and 1700. The VIX still elevated, but coming in a bit. Yesterday elevated, coming in a bit, so fear's starting to move off. I'm going to be paying attention to this as if it starts approaching 18 today for a sustained rally, especially if Powell is dovish. DAX still has the potential double bottom. Let's see, maybe it's not, because now if this is extended, no, it's not. I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's no longer. Why? Because the second and third targets. So that is not, because it's now extended on both the right and left. It's pretty much a complete technical double bottom, but not the way we trade it. So I'm still going to be watching this key point, but then it would just be back into consolidation. The targets would be different, and mainly I'd use, this 15,745 as a very key area. Other than that, on any bounce, the rotation zone is very strong resistance, about 15,300 to about 15,350. The notes, yesterday, just pushing below the 105.26 intermediate target, closing above it. Today, just pushing below the 105.16.5 target and getting a bounce off of there. So, more weakness. Now we're getting some pretty significant divergences potentially setting up with cycles getting to the bottoming area. The first area of major resistance is now about 106.20. So that's what I'm watching for on any pop if there is dovish, if it's J-Pow dovish. 10-year coming up, 497. There's your little reverse harmonic. If we do take out the high, the next key thing, which we've had on the target for a while, is 5.02, so really 5. Other than that, still caught on the rotation zone. Rotation back. The key support here right now is about 4.795 with the rising rotation zone. So that's what I'm keeping an eye on. The cycles are getting to the top on the yield. 10-2s, as brought up by George, still steepening, but not able to take out the Monday the 9th and Friday the 6th high area yet. And do have a potential double top. Does that mean the bear steepener could be over if that triggers? For the short term, if that triggers, it could possibly be. But we'll keep an eye on that. Does this not mean it ever has to trigger? But the bear steepening still back in force. Dollar index in choppy against this trend line that I'm watching. Still, the 62.5 is providing to be key resistance and support coming in 105.83 area. But it's sort of trapped. I'll be watching. If this starts pulling back more substantially, especially with the J-Pow speech, I'll be watching for at least a short-term bottom in the markets. If it starts breaking above the 62.5, I'll be watching for more of a rollover. Crude, still caught in the range. The double confirmed but not triggered on the 4-hour. So if we roll back over, get a 4-hour close below 85.60, I'll watch for the continued pullback. Other than that, still holding firm after triggering the double bottom. So in consolidation with the contract rollover, as Christoph pointed out, that I missed yesterday because I was feeling under the weather and missed it. So I thank you for everyone who points out my mistakes. Feeling better today, though. Let's see. Gold. Not much has changed since my commentary yesterday. Still 1987.2 is the next target area on the little breakout play. As long as Powell's not too dovish. The 10 years on the 10-year no longer has a double top on the yield. And this is climbing pretty rapidly again. Gonna watch for this because, you know, there seems to be a pretty hard cap on the yen right here, this 149.80, 149.90 area. But if it breaks through there, watch out. This could really test the high area from last October. This is getting really sloppy. I'm not even going to keep the double on there anymore. Euro still, we have the channeling flag pattern. The double is still little valid here. The bigger double, not this little mini thing. But if I'll really be watching for this to start getting some momentum on if we get above 105.90 again. The pound, which now does not have this mini double anymore that never triggered. On any bounce play, if we start getting above about this 121.50 area, key resistance now coming in at 122.20. Spiders, see, they're on the list. Spiders, we still have, even with this, the double is still in play, even with yesterday's pullback. The key areas, let me clean this chart up. There's too many lines on here. Too many lines. Let me see. Gotta clean up some of this so we can focus. Let's see. Let me just take off some of this for now. The key area is 431.21 right now on a rollover play, 430.23. And then 429.16, you see how it bounced off there yesterday, which is 50%. We break below there, 426.92, close below 426.92, watching for much lower prices, and that would invalidate the remaining targets on the double. To the upside, 433 is the first key area. 433, then then yesterday's open. 434.19 and then 435.90. Above 435.90, you're really looking at the next major target, 438.14 to 439. The Qs. We clean up this too. There we go. Trading for 364.98 pre-market on a rollover 363.37. Then the next target, 362, and then 359.75, bouncing at that 50% yesterday. So watch 359.75 on a closing basis to the upside. Looking for 365.67 area, and then above there, major resistance 368.25. Okay. What else do we have? What I'm just trying to see. We'll see if we can add something back in a bit. AMD introduced fast AMD Radeon laptop graphics ever developed. Interesting. Netflix is flying in. Let's get to Netflix. Netflix above 400. This is, with their price increase, their earnings weren't that, the revenue was not that strong, but they announced their price increase, so we shall see where that hits. 400 to about 411 is some major resistance. Some major resistance. So let's do the reverse harmonics on here. 414 is the next key target. 414 to 432 is a potential major rollover zone for Netflix. So that's what we have there. And then if it came back into support, 385 is the key support. I did not do Tesla. Trading 326. So, boy, are we going to rally back to the downgrade in, what was it, Goldman, to 435? I mean, the key resistance is now 234 and then 244. And that would be also for the gap fill. But no longer, the longer-term bearish pattern is still in play, but nowhere near triggered and not even below. That would take us below the 200 eventually. But we shall see. What is now the official PDE 7230, so that will have to get updated. Good morning, Balaji. What is the next resistance? I think I did that. Any short pattern for a quick scalp? I would, again, we got to wait till the gap up. I'd just be watching for reversals against those levels I said just a couple minutes ago. Oh, wow. Nokia to lay off 14,000. That's a big layoff. We are so screwed. Rick Santelli on Squawk Box said October 3rd, 2023. If things move in a certain direction, I do think 13% would be my 10-year call. Tesla open at 226. Yeah, Tesla opening 220. Well, right now about 227. But the major key level is still, the major key level on a closing basis is below 212.36. That would be below the 200 and triggered is still valid larger double top pattern. So that's what I'm watching for before getting overly bearish. All right, let's check in on the S&P and the NASDAQ going into the open. Trading against this key little resistance area from yesterday that broke. You see the support shelf that was broken going into the close with then the bounce confirming the resistance. Retested this morning. So 431.50 to 431. 43.51 to 43.52 is key resistance. We start bouncing above there with some decent tick. I'll watch at least for a potential rally into some Jay Powell speech. If we hold this level, the key support is coming in about 43.35. We start dropping below 43.35, then I'm watching more so for the rollover play. Does gold finally break out here? Didn't I already cover gold? I talked about with gold, this little pausing area that was here. Now we could still backfill, but this, because we're in the 50 to 62.5. But this was a very key. We only got a single bar pause. The last single bar pause you saw this. If it has any backfill, I'm still watching just for a longer term major bottoming pattern. Now, the cycles are at the top, but coming in, key support is now even back to 1916. So as long as 1916 holds, even with a pullback, no, I don't see any major issue with gold from this pop up. So that, and then I'm watching for that follow through close to 1987 too, and then I'm gonna use the recent April high area with the 87 harmonic as a key target. What do you think about TLT? The 30-year, 20 to 30 year. Well, it's got still a potential double bottom. Again, if we start getting we're going to get some kind of major pop in it at some point. Whether I'd need to have the double trigger, because anything else would still be, even a pop would be to a potential rollover zone. Now it is getting oversold with it's coming out of oversold, but we could be setting up a double bottom divergence with cycles getting to the bottom. So if you start getting a close above yesterday's high, you could watch for a front run pattern, because that would be a %B buy. But I'd manage it really, really tightly if you were trying to buy down here, because the bigger thing would be, again, if it closes eventually above 88.47. And you see here on the weekly, you can see even that weekly, and that could take it back into the weekly rotation zone. And look at how that target lines up. Look at the key support from October, support from August, broken. That would just take it back to now that key resistance area. That does not mean because it lines up so nicely, it has to trigger. So, all right. Thank you for that information. It's chasing Netflix higher, bruh. All right. Thank you, everyone. I got to jump into the open. Everyone have a wonderful morning and a fantastic trading day. Remember, JPOW at 11 Central, and I'll talk to everyone tomorrow. Bye for now.